Welcome to Between Two Posts. Usually at AHA, we provide informational content about leagues, rankings, teams, what to look for, what not to look for. Today, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to have the advisors on our team talking about tryout season and a couple other things that you should keep in mind. So let's jump right in. You guys know me, staff know I've been doing content here for a couple of years. I'm one of the agents on the team. I'm now going to introduce you to two of my colleagues. Sean.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Sean. I'm the director of advising. I'm excited to get this going. There's a lot of fun stuff, fun topics that are going on in hockey and just in the sports world. So I think what better than to share some of our thoughts as we continue to do already. Let's just open it up more for families. So looking forward to this.
And up next, we got John Michael.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Michael. I'm one of the lead advisors with AHA. Been here for just over a year now. And yeah, I think this podcast is going to be an interesting opportunity for us to share our thoughts and opinions on some recent events and relate some things that might not be hockey back to hockey and how it all sort of ties together.
And like I said, this is a much less formal than we usually do. We really want to have more of a conversation. You guys have been in the comments mentioning that you want more of our takes, our opinions, and see a little more of the personal side. So we're bringing it to you today. We're going to split it up into three sections: the warm-up, game time, and overtime. Let's kick it off with the warm-up. Sean, go ahead.
So for those that have been paying attention to just the season in general, it's draft time, not only for hockey players, but for those in the US or that are football fans. NFL draft happened over the weekend. I think the biggest news out of the NFL draft was not like who was number one, Cam Ward, or even, team picks. It was the 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥 saga. And so for those that weren't paying attention, quick breakdown. 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥, fairly successful college career. Had his number retired recently. There's a hot take on that, I'm sure, from some people out there. I'm not going to get into that. What I want to get into, and I think is relevant, is it's kind of a lesson for families and kids just across the board on how do you show up? How do you go into some of these drafts? What's your perception? I think there's been a lot of hot takes on how 𝗗𝗑𝗧 has presented himself, whether that's right or wrong, or if you're indifferent. But also kind of the elephant in the room. Dad was his coach for the last couple of years. Dad's got inside track to the NFL. Dad was very vocal on where he was going to go, wasn't going to go, who he would play for. And I wish I could say that this is like a unique situation, but I think it brings to light some really good lessons for parents right now and kids on how do you show up with teams? So if in the case of Deion Sanders, who's arguably one of the greatest NFL players of all time, I'm not going to discount that at all. And he's a pretty good coach. He's helped turn around Colorado and Jackson State. But at what point do you as a parent pause or remove yourself from the conversation and start to let your kid lead? And I say that because I've dealt with multiple coaches. I experienced this myself. At some point, coaches are going to tell you, I don't want to hear from dad. I don't want to hear from mom. I want to hear from you. I need to know that you're driving the bus. So for me, I think it's a good lesson for everybody out there who, be a parent who cares. Absolutely be invested in what your kid's doing, but also know at some point as you develop in hockey, your kid's got to be driving the bus. So I'd love to know your take on it. That's kind of my, I think we need to be doing a better job as parents and as mentors in our roles, making sure the kids can lead themselves, have those conversations, and show that they're growing and can be professionals.
Well, for me, there's two other factors that go into this. Is first, who was in his ear besides Pops, giving him saying, you're a first round pick, you're the best of all time, you're going to be the next greatest to ever walk on the field. Who's in his ear besides Pops? Because mom and dad are always going to be, your biggest supporters, biggest fans, that's fine. But there's got to be more than just that, right? Especially as a kid, we don't always listen to mom and dad.
And from what I heard, I don't think he had an agent. I think this is a self-managed, dad kind of does some of that, or that's what I had heard. I don't know, so don't quote me on this, but I could see where if you don't have an agent or an advisor in that case, really with the NFL, so for everybody who wants to be clear on the rule, in the NFL, it's June 7th, basically the week after the national championship, agents can start meeting with guys and start representing them. So if he went through this process without an agent, without someone who kind of knows the back ends and the ropes, regardless of what Pops knows, there might have been some missteps there and some back channeling or just conversations that probably should have happened that didn't. So that is a factor here.
Well, that's the first one. And then the second one is, with the new time of social media running the world, this kid made millions of dollars, more than he'll probably ever make in the NFL, let's be honest. Did he kind of put himself in a doghouse because of his social media presence? With the release of his song, with the way he treated his teammates, the way he talked on the field, his cockiness, he was known in social media for what he he did pre-game, post-game, the way he wore that Richard Mills during warm-ups, which doesn't make sense. Like,
I mean, if you have 4 of them, it does. You can wear those. And
at what point do you think his socials, instead of helping him become a player that an organization can sell and make money off of, now they turned around and said, there's no way we want this liability?
I mean, I think that was a big piece for a lot of teams, right? Like, what are we inviting into our organization? Like, if we just separate the player, a capable athlete, he's a good athlete. Let's be real. He will get a lick. He will get chances. He knows what he does in Cleveland. I hope things work out for him. But when you separate that versus, what you're saying, okay, well, what personality do you bring? What's your work ethic really? Like, are you a good teammate? The things that we know, hockey coaches, baseball coaches, football coaches, any coach ultimately who's trying to build a culture is going to be focused on. The difference is when that star's a little bit brighter than maybe the culture itself, is that a risk that some people don't want to take on. Like, I can say this, look at, like, again, staying in football, Russell Wilson posts all the time about how great his teammates are. He's a godly man, but like, that's rubbed some people the wrong way, to the point where people are kind of like, is it a show? So like, are you damned if you do, damned if you don't in some of that? And like, trying to think of hockey players that kind of operate that way or represent that way. And it's like, I don't know if there's maybe the same level of it. And so maybe that's why hockey kind of gets away with this. Like, could you imagine if Lane Hudson was like doing this a couple years ago, or like Gavin McKenna right now was like running around like in a Range Rover talking about like how good he is, which in fact the kid is so good, like disgusting. Or like Landon DuPont, right? Like guys who are, I would say, pretty exceptional for their age group, but they don't do that on their presence. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with their reps saying, hey, slow play this. Yeah, be authentic, but like, you're about your business until the time comes that you can open that up and have a little more personality. But we're not there yet.
Well, I would take it a step further, and even guys that are in the league and have a name for themselves. You look at Caulfield or Zegras, that young guys in the league that have a presence on social media, they show their personality. Could you imagine them going to start doing TikTok dances and taking over like the National League? Like, even at that point, I don't think they would do that. It'd be hilarious to see.
It's funny because like the NHL leaned into that too, with like that whole the new golden era or whatever that campaign they ran this year. It's like, it's, you got Messier and like kids these days, they kind of leaned into it, and there's some flashiness there. Like, again, I think it's great for the sport. Like, it's going to be painful for everybody trying to pull a Zegras and a Mishi every 5 minutes, but you see kids trying to do it all the time. It's kind of cool.
Okay, no. We're 3 goalies on this call. There's nothing worse than the Michigan. I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing worse. I hate that that's normal now.
I'm gonna go. We couldn't show the clip here, but there was a clip from the Dallas game the other night where Nathan McKinnon's behind the net. It might have been like, what was he game for? And you can see him post up. I swear, I think the thought went through his mind, like, could I try to pull Michigan right now? And he did, and he wheeled out and hit a guy with a pass. But like, you could see it, like, he paused for a minute, like, you could hit it right now if you wanted to. You're good enough. Anyway.
You didn't see the Markstrom clip? Markstrom, the other day, they get behind the net. Instead of getting on his post, does this, holding his crossbars.
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't be normal. You shouldn't be pulling a Zorro. You shouldn't be like, this isn't lacrosse.
You're going to have to start training for it at goalie school.
You laugh.
Oh, they did.
I'm serious though.
No, you just stick the hand out. As soon as he goes for it, you just step into him.
You laugh. I spoke to one of my old goalie coaches. He goes, I started teaching guys to swing the stick like a sword. Just, you knock the guy out, he'll never do it again. You'd probably get suspended, but this is not okay. It's not normal. For all you players out there, we hate you.
That's not true. If you get blown up doing it, you get what you deserve.
Why? Okay, so this is completely off topic, but why haven't we seen a defenseman kill a guy that's pulling a Michigan behind the net? He's got his head down. You should be clobbering him.
That's a great question, honestly. Like, there's been multiple clips where you're like, Dad, he's prime. He's vulnerable. Like, he's vulnerable, and not to hit a guy 3 feet off the boards and then put his head through the glass. And
where's the Scott Stevens when you need him?
That's pretty rough. It's rough.
I guarantee you nobody will ever Michigan again if someone Scott Stevens a guy.
We have gone so far off the core topic of, like, ultimately I think it's a really good cautionary tale for parents and kids. How do you show up with coaches? How do you engage? What your persona matters. Yes, NIL can be important and can shape some of your future earnings. And for a lot of guys going into college where NIL is bigger and bigger each year with hockey players, specific in our audience probably. Yes, it's okay to have a personality. It's okay to have, like, to be fun, to be irreverent sometimes. Like, you guys have been in a locker room. not everybody's like the stern, like stoic guy. Sometimes you got your goofballs, your cut ups, like you got your clowns. It's okay to share. Like Marc-Andre Fleury is a great example of this, right? Like guy is well respected everywhere, but the king prankster, and like literally like will take a prank war to the nth degree. And I personally think it's been great watching it. But I say that with the idea of he's a pro, he's earned that ability to do it, right? He's earned it over time. When you're a younger guy, like think about how you show up and think about how you present yourself to coaches. And is our mom and dad doing the talking for you, or are you doing the talking?
Yeah.
I want to take this even a step younger, and before we talk about NHL draft, let's talk about the OHL for a second here. One of my guys just went through the process, and it's pretty extensive. He's interviewing with teams, and they're not really asking him in an interview about his goaltending ability, right? They're talking about what he is as a person, who he is, and what his values are, and what he brings to the table in terms of character. And, they don't want to talk to mom and dad, right? They want to have a conversation with him, and he's 16. So it does start pretty young. The other thing to think about is immediately they looked at his social media, and players and coaches from the team followed him as soon as he was picked. So to the young kids out there that think, it's cool to post a picture of you and your buddies, drinking a case of Bud Light on a Friday night at 15, maybe rethink that, save that for a memory you keep close to home. Probably shouldn't be drinking Bud Light anyways, but, I'm not here to be your nutritionist, but don't put that out there for everyone to see, because I think we've kind of gotten away from the whole, the internet is forever thing. And everybody thinks, oh, it's just, who cares? It may come back to haunt you. And I promise you right now, if you lose a draft spot, whether it's OHL, NHL, whatever your sport is, because of something stupid you posted on the internet 5 years ago, you are going to regret it. It is going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
Truer words have never been spoken.
All right, well, with that being said, let's go into the meat and potatoes. Let's go into tryout season, because this is the fun part of being an advisor agent. And I say that with a sigh, because you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to put it into 3 different categories. The kids who don't need to go to camp because they're studs. The kids who might need to go to camp depending on the league they're looking at. And then the kids that absolutely need to go to camp. The issue I've noticed, and this is talking to families, is the kids who don't need to go to camp because they're studs and they have teams after them, for some reason say, hey, do I have to go skate with this coach? Does he have to see me in person? No, absolutely not. You put 100 points in 20 games. Nobody has to see you. They all know who you are. And then the ones that absolutely need to go to camp are the ones saying, why isn't he signing me? Why do I have to go skate? Why do I have to go to camp? And I'm generalizing right now. Obviously, there's a bunch of middle ground. There's a huge gray zone, but it doesn't make sense. And then obviously we know there's issues with camps and all that, but we got away from the days where you had to earn a spot.
I don't know if we've gone away from that. I still think there's organizations doing that. I've talked to a few, again, on the goalie front. I talked to a team last year. They had a kid tendered. Kid made it to camp. They cut him before the All-Star game. They cut their tendered goalie before All-Star game because the goalie coach was not happy with the performance. The kid showed up complacent, thinking it was his. Every spot is yours to lose. And I have to emphasize this to guys all the time, right? The higher you move up that totem pole or the pyramid of hockey, right? We all know this. The differences in game, the things that you do better than somebody else become so much smaller. It's marginal that a guy can take your spot like that. There's someone gunning for you. And so
it's funny you say that, because I actually spoke to a null coach earlier today. He's about a goalie, and he's like, look, he goes, I tendered my 3 guys. Based on conversations I've had recently, I'm fully expecting to cut one at camp. So what's your guy's name? Let me take a look. He can earn a spot at camp. He already knows. We are end of April. He already knows that one kid is not going to show up ready.
Because they won't. There's always that one kid who's like, well, my work's done. Work's not even close to done. Great, you got a head start. That's it.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, now you actually have to go keep that spot, earn it, and show that you can do better than that. The whole idea is the expectation, if you're getting tendered, is not only are you coming in competent and ready, I'm worried I might lose you to the next level. If it's a null team, USHL. If it's, Alberta Junior, WHL, right? If you're that good, I'm actually worried that the commitment, I may not have you the whole time, but I want you to know you have a home here. Mm-hmm. That's part of that reason you're getting that is at that stud level. Then you go to the need to go, and it's that middle of the pack kid. I say this, and then I want to say this the right way, but I think we've created a world where there is so much information that scouts don't necessarily know what they're looking for all the time either. And I think part of that is because and this is for our families, going from youth, an 18 AAA program, 16 AAA, up to juniors, the juniors, coaches, and staff, they're fighting for their meals every day. Every year, they don't know if they're going to get their job. They're going to have their job the next year. a lot of these guys. Some get to keep them, some have ownership. There's some like unique situations, but mostly if you're not performing every year and you're not putting together the best team or a competitive team that drives ticket sales in some markets and wins championships and moves guys on, you're going to be out of a job. And so I say that because sometimes scouting changes, team identity. Okay, we're going to try something different this year. And so when you talk to these scouts, the conversations I've had, like there's a lot of guys who they find their pockets they really like because they know it's consistent and safe. And then you start to show them kind of, well, here's what else is out there. Like I know you didn't see him because we would have had this conversation. You'd be calling him right now. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, okay, we watched the film. Like, can we get this kid to camp? Like, I don't know where you found him. And so I say that because there's definitely a disparity, right? Like these teams don't have all the resources to scout everywhere. They go to the main areas they know, like North American League. Every team's got a scout in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Not every team has a scout on the West Coast. Not every team has a scout in the Southeast. And so I think for those middle of the pack guys where it's like, well, you're about a point per game, but you played on Florida Alliance or something like that, they may not know. And so you got to show, like, great, your stats show something. I want to see you and how you look against the guys that my staff went and found. That's part of the reason they ask you to go to camp. I want to see how you stack up against the guys that we think are our guys.
I also think the issue with this and the reason they can't scout all these guys is because every year there's a new AAA league. There's another 10 teams added. Like they can't compare league to league, caliber to caliber, player to player. You look at CSSHL West compared to East. The West wins any day of the week. I don't know what they put in the water or what they're putting in the broccoli, or if the kids are mom and dad are pumping something in the milk at birth. Like there's something out there that makes them 3-4 steps ahead. And I see it all the time. I'm talking to coaches out West and juniors about Eastern kids that are good hockey players, very strong hockey players playing CSSHL out East. And they're like, he's got to come to camp. He's got to come battle versus the West guys. And that's where it's tricky because his style of play fits Western junior hockey much better. But now you got to pay $2,000 just to get there for camp.
Yeah. Well, and we see the opposite, right? For you guys from the West to the East, what am I getting with a kid that's coming from there? Typically, right? More physical. Like this is the truth, right? You can look at the WHL versus the OHL versus the Q. Mm-hmm. You can look at AJ, BCHL. BCHL is a little more skilled, right? But like you look at those leagues and then even the AAA, CSS, look at the Anaheim Ducks and like AAA teams at that level, Colorado, what they have there, Phoenix, right? Phoenix has been to nationals with their 18s and 16s like consistently almost every year. It kind of trades off with them in Dallas. It's all physical, heavy teams. You don't end up with a lot of guys putting up, 1.5, 2 points a game. It doesn't happen. You see a lot of guys on those teams that are a point per game, but it's a different type of play. Mm-hmm. The best players, though, in those leagues aren't doing 2 points a game. But then you go out east and you see a guy who's putting up, 150 points in 7 games. You're like, holy, he's a stud. He's not getting dummied behind the net and like, blown up in the corners like he would in the West Coast.
Well, that's exactly it. I look at one of my guys who played out east. He is by no means a skill guy. Love this kid. One of the hardest workers that I represent. He was over a point a game last year. He is not a skill guy. He's a gritty kid and he's tiny. But out east, that's what he was. He went and played juniors out west and he goes, oh my God, this is completely different hockey. He earned his spot. He did everything he had to do, but it's completely different. And I'm sure even for like GM in Toronto there, you compare GTHL compared to OMHA compared to HEO, like they're all relatively close to each other, but the gap is huge. Because GTHL after 16U kind of falls off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think with the GTHL is they have no boundaries, right? They can pull whoever they want. They have very little red tape around, player contracts, coach contracts. There's a lot of freedom for them to sort of do whatever they want and build super teams. And then you see, with the top end teams, the majority of the players get drafted and move on to juniors, which is why it then becomes a weaker 18s league. And with the GTHL, I think you see a big combination of skill, speed, size, aggression, all that sort of stuff. And then I think within the OMHA, probably a little bit more just on the skill side, not quite as heavy hitting. And then with guys out in the Alliance, you see more of that Western style of play where you still see teams that are playing a lot of dump and chase hockey and go pound their D all night and, move it out back up to the point, shots from the point with tips, all that sort of stuff. And I think you see more players returning to 18s because, again, they're not getting drafted to the WHL. They're going to the O, where it sort of fits that more skilled play style versus the super heavy hockey. And that's why a lot of the really, really strong 18s programs are from the Alliance, like Waterloo being one of them, Elgin another one. Like they're super, super high-end programs because a lot of kids return that were probably good enough to be higher draft picks, but because of what the OHL is looking for compared to the WHL, they dropped down the order or didn't get picked at all. And maybe their fate would have been a little bit different in a league where, physicality is more important.
Yeah.
So it's at every single level. It's even, like you said, even within an hour radius, things are vastly different.
And I
So
think
when you
go ahead, sir.
when you talk to families about like that, actually the Ontario landscape's a really interesting one, right? And you just look at like the levels of junior, the amount of leagues available, right? Like we get a lot of families that say out of that 16s, they're like, well, I'm not gonna go back and play 18s. I'm gonna go play like Geo, or I'm gonna go play like I'll play at a like technically like a junior B, but like high end, like that's where I want to be. When you have discussions with families about like tryouts and how you show up and how you're presenting to coaches, is that a factor? Like how are you helping them navigate that to like, do I want to be seen as like a great candidate for one over the other? I think there's a lot going on there that like, it's a very interesting market and unique onto itself because of all the options that exist.
Yeah. I think
discussions with coaches, like what do you guys do?
Well, I think it really depends on the team that they're looking to play for. If we're talking about like the GOJHL, right? Some teams have a reputation for being big and heavy, and some teams have a reputation for being fast and skilled. I think the bigger and heavier teams are generally older, and the fast skilled teams usually more younger guys. Obviously, it depends on the player and what they're able to bring to the table. I'm not going to tell one of my 5'7", 150-pound forwards who skates like the wind that he needs to go bury the 6'5" D. But I think there is definitely sort of a difference of what are we going to look at doing over the summer? How are we going to get ready for U18s, especially if we're playing in the GTHL with one of the few strong programs. I grew up, the Red Wings were notoriously strong for U18s and one of the weaker 16 programs. But then for U18s, in my year, they actually won the TELUS Cup. Super skilled team. So if he can do both, I'm saying, okay, we need to work more on, let's work on your skating, hands, shooting. But if you're going to go play for like the Elmira Sugar Kings in the GOJ, like you need to be in the gym because they bury teams. Like they have guys that are skilled, don't get me wrong, but they pound teams. I'll never forget the first time I ever played against them. And I was sitting on the bench and a guy got blown up 2 feet away from me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really happy I'm a goalie right now because I would have died. So it's definitely like you have to change your approach. And I think it's definitely like even different at the junior A level, with the OJ, the NOJ and the CC, they're all different leagues as well. Right. And I think I just think like, again, depending on the team, with a team like Collingwood, like they play very like college style, like that sort of Hockey East traditionally, like really fast, really skilled, really good at moving the puck. They break out as a team, they break in as a team, they don't dump the puck in a whole lot. But there are other programs where, again, they're playing that more old school style where it's, we got to go kill guys and, win puck battles, and we're not going to make it look pretty, but no one wants to play against us.
And I think that's the big thing that is the biggest factor to explain to families, right? Is the reason your kid has to go to tryouts is not because we think he's a bad hockey player, but because before he used to be competing with 500 kids. Now he's competing with 500,000 kids. With the amount of kids that are playing AAA, and with that many kids, these coaches can't go and recruit. They can't go watch every AAA league, every player out there. It's impossible, right? They're checking EPs, they're checking Instat, they're using our probability tool to compare leagues, right? A kid out east, okay, where did he play last year? If he played in GTHL as an 18, in the last 5 years, where do those kids usually end up? Can he come play out west, right? So they're looking at all this, and that's why your kid has to go to camp. Now, don't get me wrong. When a camp has 1,000 kids, I'm sorry that's messed up on the junior team's part or on the AAA team's part. But he still has to go to camp and earn his spot. Like, no matter what. I remember when I played, I'm gonna age myself here. My junior time was 2014. That's when I went into juniors. I was the last cut from the queue. Literally the last day, the last exhibition game, the day before season starts. Came back to my junior camp. When I got there was still 6 goalies. There was still 20 defensemen. And there was still 30 forwards roughly. So about 2 teams. And they were a week into camp. So I'm assuming he started with double that. That's about 120, 150 players. It's a lot, but it's not 500. So that's where it's important. You're picking your camps kind of that makes sense, but understand why your kid has to go to camp. Even if you were a point a game out west, depending on where you want to play, you might have to go to camp. Not because, we don't think you're good enough to play there, but because there's 5,000 kids that these coaches contacted.
Well, and then there's the other factor in this. the necessity to go to camp, like the absolutely's, I think was like your third layer.
Yeah.
And it's more times than not, like if your advisor is really trying to map out something for you and really think like the forest beyond the trees, as people say, or, you know, long term, sometimes they're sending you to a camp because we know that you're going to be a good fit there eventually, but we know you need development. And so the intent of, and I do this with a lot of my younger guys, it's like, hey, we're going to send you to this camp. Our intent is not for you to make the team out of camp. I want you to go and compete. I want them to be able to see the type of player that we think you can become, that we are all betting on. And so that they have now, like you were saying, they can't be everywhere all at once. But, you know, little Johnny comes in, they're like, okay, we want to watch this kid. Where are you playing next year? Great. Okay, we want to watch you. And now we know when you come through town, we have a scout. Now we can have that visibility. Like part of it is a long game. It's frustrating for parents at times. And I think for players, even it's like, well, I didn't make that team. Like, but that was not our intent. Our intent was this team could be a really good fit for you next year or the year after. And so let's get you there now, so that you can start seeing what the next level is. That's a big one with my guys, right? Like I want to expose you like at 17, maybe you're not physically ready. Let's get you there now so that you know what you have to come back in a year ready to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's a shocker. I think my first junior camp, I probably punched above my weight class more than anybody thought I would. But I had no idea what I was doing going into it. And again, as a goalie, it's a little different, right? Like you can kind of control, like you're not subject to some of the more physical play and all that. But like stamina wise, like the speed of the shots, pacing, like it is something you have to get adjusted to so that when you come around next year and maybe as a goalie specifically, like that pace feels comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
The shot speed, the power feels comfortable. Rebound control, you feel okay with it. For a player, it's okay. I'm not going to go into a corner and get blown up by a 19-year-old who's trying to make the team, right? Like protecting ourselves, making good decisions. Can my vision and timing get better? Those are factors that we can train those all year. And if you have a good coach and a good program, you're getting, but you don't know until you're there.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you just don't know.
And I want to emphasize as a player, especially when you're getting that first experience at a junior camp, you see how detail-oriented these people are. Sean, you touched to it earlier. The margin between you and the guy next to you is your details. It's this big, but you're doing a flow drill and you miss a pass. Coach notices that. You're cut. Or you can't catch a pass. Oh my God, drill killers. They're everywhere.
DK. They'll write it. I've seen it.
You can be a stud in game. If you're a drill killer, you're going to piss him off all season. He doesn't want to keep you.
It's a headache for him.
Like, it's a huge problem. And then on the flip side, guys that aren't skilled, but in practice work their bag off and are detail-oriented will take your spot.
Yeah.
Like,
it starts to happen at AAA too, right? Like you can see this at tier 1 and like prep where I had a coach tell me this, a kid that I coached a couple years ago made a 16s program. He made their 18s program. And the first thing the coach said to me, the director of hockey goes, I'll take 100 of him any day. Find me more of him. I want that kid. He's not a problem. Good student, good teammate, shows up and does the work. Can't finish yet. Doesn't have the touch yet.
All Swedish.
Yeah. And I was like, that was what I recommended when I sent the kid that coach's way. I was like, this is what you're going to get and you won't regret it. And he was like, sure enough, find me more of him. So that's a big factor again. And that goes back to how do you show up? What are the little things you do? One thing that I hear in tryouts a lot when we recommend to our kids, how you physically literally show up to that tryout. Are you showing up in slides, oversized sweatpants with like stains on them? Like, do you look like you just got out of bed? Or do you show up, quarter zip, polo, nice shoes? Like, do you look put together?
Well, I think that's super important. But I mean, even with our showcase last year, and I know Steph, you spoke with Jamie about this. But, we did have some kids that came in and they looked super professional. And we had other kids that came in and, it looked like they had thrown on the clothes from the night before and rolled out of bed. Their hair's going 7 different directions. And I think, definitely as advisors, we care about that. But if you pay attention when you walk in the lobby, like the coaches are all standing there. And if you think they don't notice that, you're fooling yourself. Because if we look at the NHL, it's one of the only professional sports, and it might be the only one left, where they all still wear suits to the games. The professional culture in hockey is driven home from a very young age. I was wearing a suit at 6 years old, or a dress shirt, a tie at 6 years old. Suits probably started at about 12.
I know the keyboard warriors are going to kill us right now. If you guys saw when we posted that video about me and Jamie talking about it, you guys are old fashioned. You're a joke if that's what you care about. Like, but you're 100% right. Because go ahead. Sorry, I'll say it after.
The suit is the uniform of a businessman. Your profession is hockey. Put your uniform on the same way you wear your uniform when you go on the ice. You need to look professional. You need to look presentable. Now, are you going to wear a suit to a camp or a showcase? No, that's a bit much. Okay, especially when it's 20, 30 degrees outside, or for our American friends, 80, 90.
Good conversion.
I did live there. It's that's a little much. It's not realistic. But put on some, even what you might wear to the golf course.
I was gonna say golf attire is perfectly fine.
Right, exactly. And
I think you went a little heavy on like the grapes-esque cake there, but
Well, I was waiting for him to pull out his old Scarface, just straight old Italian mobster. But I
black suit, white shirt, get it dialed in. You got business to do. I mean,
pointy Italian shoes.
I remember last year's showcase, okay? I'll never forget this because 3 kids walked in at the same time, and I was talking to the Princeton coach. We were just having a conversation, following up. The first kid walked in. He was maybe a little less than business casual. He had nice jeans on. He had a button-down shirt. He was wearing a cowboy hat. Now, I was perfectly...
I remember this, though. Where was the kid from?
Texas.
Yeah.
I was perfectly fine with it because I was like, you know what? You're
Texas
clean dressed. You're clean dressed
ready.
and you got a little bit of a personal touch to it. That is fine. Like even the kids that show up business casual and they got a little bit of they had a clean looking hat on, that's fine. And the Princeton coach was like, I like this kid already. I want to see him. We took his name and he wrote it on the paper right away. We hadn't started the showcase. And then we had the next kid come in, the GM. You remember this one. He walked in with his girlfriend. They were making out at the door. And I'm like, you're at a showcase. He looked at me and said, you guys allowed him into your showcase? I had to apologize. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Like, they were informed beforehand how to show up. This is the Princeton coach, not me. He's taking notes. They haven't even hopped on the ice yet. He loves the cowboy, but this guy walks in slopped. Like, what are you supposed to do? And then the third kid came in a full suit. Like, complete 3 different looks. But you could tell which ones were here for hockey and which ones was vacation. And it's not coming from us, the advisors. We're trying to inform you to give you the best opportunity. These aren't our players. We're trying to facilitate a chance for them to be seen. It's Princeton, not Joe Schmo. I created my program yesterday. You're paying $200,000 for mashed potatoes. One of the highest academic institutions, a great hockey institution. Like, that's what they're looking at.
I remember that kid too.
Oh, man.
Nice family.
Oh, unbelievable. And he was a good hockey player. He was gritty. He was gritty. You could tell, too, when he walked in. He had that farmer strength.
Yeah. That's a great microcosm of you never know who's watching. Like, and even if it's not a coach in the lobby, 9 times out of 10, that's team staff in the lobby. They're going to go up and give the report anyway. And they have a no knuckleheads report. Like, hey, this kid showed up wearing a Hawaiian shirt and had his sunglasses on. And because then the other thing is okay, the next thing that they look at is they're going to have coaches on the bench. Who's warming up? So the one that I hear a lot from kids is I don't want to be a tryhard, or that's I'm making myself sound old right now, but a lot of guys in this generation, trying out right now in that, 05 to kind of 2010 birth year, I don't want to be a tryhard. There's nothing wrong with being a tryhard. If being a tryhard means you're the guy who's foam rolling, doing your stretch of pregame, for a coach, that shows me that you're dedicated to this, that you have a craft, that you have a routine, that okay, you showed up ready to play. You're not the guy who's sitting there 15 minutes before you're on the ice, joking with the boys, talking about your 104 you shot on the course this morning, slapping your tin, because those guys still exist. I don't want to see that.
Let's take it a step further, though. We're talking about last year's showcase. What's the first thing that came to mind? Senor Texas, right? How to stay memorable to a coach. I remember quite a few players, but he's the one that comes to mind when I think of last year's showcase, right? If you're going there knowing, like you said before, where he's coming to camp, he's not going to make that team, but it's for the year after. You just made yourself memorable. That coach is going to remember who you are. Whether it's you stretched beforehand, you were the try-hard, you were the guy that was way too serious asking 1,000 questions, you showed up business casual with a little bit of, you want to wear a good golf polo shirt with the little ducks on it. It's still a polo. I'll take it. I don't care. There's a little touch of you in there. You're memorable. You want to be memorable to these guys. If you're not ready today, you might be tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And the last one that I'll put out there, so we talked about how you show up pregame, obviously how you act on the ice, like, are you competing? You know, yeah, there's going to be physicality. Like, I've been at multiple camps, junior level, showcase, all of it, where the coach or the man, you know, or the person running that camp is saying, like, I need more from you guys. I need you to take up the intensity. Some guys show up to these kind of on vacation, but the final one that really, like, I think is a way to really leave an impression or something important to do is thanking the coaches after. The bench coach, thank the refs. Nobody has to be out here for your time. Like, they do because they're trying to review you, but like, that goes such a long way when you're the respectful kid. Like, thank you, coach, for your time on the bench. That makes it into a note.
Mm-hmm.
And so being a good person, shocker, still counts for something. Being a really skilled player that doesn't do those things, I can tell you I've seen it multiple times in the past couple of years at showcases, ours and others, where you have a great player, the kid is an absolute nightmare, rude to people, like doesn't show appreciation. That's an easy, like, that kid's right off, gone, not even in consideration, doesn't make an all-star game. So the impression you leave is really important. And you only have a weekend to do it sometimes.
All right, before we wrap up this little tryout segment, because we're going to ramble on for like 6 hours, we'll each go through what's your one piece for a takeaway for a family. One thing they got to keep in mind when it comes to tryouts.
Let's go, Don. Let's hear it.
I think, okay, if I have one thing, it's going to be more than one thing, but it's going to be a short group. How you present yourself is very important. The way you dress, okay? Sure, I'm a little old-fashioned, but look presentable. Look like you're there, you know, to do some business. You're not there, again, on vacation. You didn't just roll out of bed, number one. Number two, be the tryhard for two reasons. One, I had a player who went to a new team, and he warmed up before every single practice. And at first, guys kind of looked at him like he had three heads. Guess what happened by the end of the year? The whole team was warming up before practice. Spoke to his coach. He goes, you know what? The kid came in and changed the culture of our team. I've never seen that happen before. So, and the other side of it is, do you want to get injured because you were worried about being a tryhard? Think about it, especially for the older guys out there. And this is coming from somebody who got injured more times than he would like to admit because he didn't warm up. Not for the sake of being a tryhard, but just because, you know, I didn't want to listen to my dad. The third piece is leave it all on the ice. You are trying out for a team. For some of you, this may be your sort of last opportunity. You know, you might be a 20-year-old and this is a make or break year for you. Don't leave the game with regrets. Don't leave the game with effort still left in the tank. If you give it all and you don't make the team, then you can walk away with your head held high and say, you know what, I tried my best. But again, if you don't, it will be something that you have to live with for the rest of your life. Go out there and be an animal, because if you go out there and you prove to the coach that, hey, maybe I'm not a 50 goal scorer, I'm not a point a game guy even, but I will block pucks with my teeth, probably going to have a pretty good hockey career. That's what I have. That's me. That's from the modern grapes.
Sean, what you got?
Mine's a little more personal, and I'm not saying it's a right or a wrong. It just is. Prioritizing what is important, and if you think you have things left in the tank, giving all of yourself to the experience and committing to like trying to make it happen. This is a short story. It's a longer one if it needs to be at some point, but in the States we have prom, right? I had a girlfriend, very much appreciate her, wish her the best now, like not married to her. That happened later with someone else. But I say this because I had a chance, talking about like guys that need to show up to camp. I had a chance to go to Texarkana and try out for John Cooper the first year of their back-to-back championships. And I was trying to find ways like, I could do that and then drive back and I was trying to think of every which way I could make this work. I enjoyed my prom experience. It is like a pinnacle thing, and there are certain moments in your life that you may not want to miss. For me, with how much I love hockey and how dedicated I was, and I had Cooper tell me explicitly, I'd love to, but you gotta come and I gotta see you. I gotta have you here. I can't. I didn't go. Didn't get bypassed. Like, that was it. That was my chance. That was my one shot. Would I have made the team? I don't know. But that's a really, like, I say that because, like, prioritize the things that are important to you. Don't forget that you're a kid or you're a young man or a young woman, like, trying to have these experiences. But if you really want this, there are certain trade-offs that you have to make. And if it is that one shot, really give it thought and be aware of what you're trading off. If you're going to miss a camp for a team that ends up winning a national championship, don't be disappointed in anybody but yourself because you made the decision not to go to that. So that's my That's my last one.
All right. Mine's going to emphasize what GM said. When you go to camp, you got 4, maybe 5 skates. There is no excuses. I don't care where you're coming from, how long the drive was, the flight, how your body feels. There is absolutely no excuses, right? You picked that camp date. You knew it was coming. It's in your schedule. You don't book it the day before. You didn't rest properly. You're tired. That's your problem. You're hurt because you did something dumb. That's your problem. You didn't eat enough. You didn't properly. Your problem. When you get on the ice, especially when there's 4, 5, 600 kids out there, one mistake, you are cut. You could be stellar Friday. You could be stellar Saturday. You came Sunday to the All-Star game and you forgot how to tie your skates, or you scored on your own goalie, or you couldn't stop a beach ball. You are cut. They're not going to go based on your first and second day. They're going overall, right? There's enough kids out there to replace you in a heartbeat. For every one kid, there's 100 kids waiting. You need to remember that. So there is no excuse. You broke your wrist, figure out a way to play with your cast, right? If you want to make that team, it's that simple. There is no excuses. You're laughing. I had a teammate in juniors, showed up to camp with a cast on. He made our team. And
He's the guy sitting there, he's like going up to the rotary saw, like, oh, you're going to trim your stick? No, just got to cut this off real quick.
It's literally like he broke it so that he could move a little bit. He broke his cast so he could move it a little bit. And there is no excuse. It's that simple. If you're showing up to camp, you're not allowed to make mistakes. And I'm not talking about, okay, you missed a pass. I'm talking about, you caused a turnover that let in a goal that lost the game. That's a mistake. You showed up late. You didn't finish your hit. That guy went and scored. That's a mistake. Missing a pass happens to everybody. Dumb turnovers, that's a choice. That's a mistake. These are things that they're looking at, and you cannot have any. I'm referencing a goalie that just came back from camp. He had the spot locked up. Day 1, they were about to sign him mid-camp. And they're like, you know what, tomorrow let's test him more. They tested him, he didn't perform, and he got cut the same day. He had it locked up the day before. So when you go to camp, you're either all in or you're all out. It's that simple. And let's end it off with overtime. Goalie's worst nightmare. I hate overtime, so let's get into overtime.
Oh, it's the best. Come on.
I love overtime too.
Shootouts.
I hate watching it.
Shootouts. I am a shootout guy any day of the week.
Yeah, you would be. Nice and easy, one-on-one. Just bring them on down. Don't need that. I don't need an extra 3 periods. Why would I want that?
No, shootouts only.
All right. Here's my overtime. I don't know if either of you have been nominated for this yet or not, but the USC Speak Your Mind Ice Bucket Challenge. For those of us that were old enough to remember the ALS Challenge, that was a miserable experience getting dumped with ice, but it was also to help raise awareness for ALS. So I got nominated by one of my players, one of my clients. Love you, Brody, but not going to do it. The first thing I wrote back and I asked, like, can I donate? The whole point of this was if you don't do it originally, you should donate. Didn't know that there was an organization to do it. I think there is. So listeners, viewers, chime in. I think the organization that it's supporting is actually Active Minds. And so if that's the case, I will donate in lieu of me getting dumped with ice water on camera. I will donate because I'm happy to donate. I believe in mental health. My wife is a mental health professional. Like big on this. We can have a whole podcast on this at some point. When you're going to do it and you're calling people out, make sure that you know that people have an opportunity to donate. Because as much as you're raising awareness from a visibility standpoint, I love that everybody's doing this. Money for research is just as important, if not more important. So get it out there. That's my overtime. If this is tell me if this is the organization or not that I should be donating to, I will donate. There we go.
I'm doing it the other way. I have 4 clients that tag me. They've all been texting me nonstop. So when are you going to do it? We want to laugh at you. And I'm like, when you make the team, when I worked my butt off to get you at this opportunity, make the team and I will do it. I will gladly do it. I'll even put your name and your future commitment on there. You have to make that team. The amount of hours that went into it, you do it. And then I'll go under a Zamboni. They can dump a Zamboni on me.
Ooh. I love a Zam clean out. That water is disgusting.
It's disgusting and it's frozen.
We're gonna have to bathe you in like rubbing alcohol.
You can bleach me.
I love this. Yes. No, I love this. I'm in for this.
If the 4 kids make their teams, you can bleach me after that. That's how bad it's gonna get.
Does it have to be their teams, or can it be a team at that level? And who do I need to start calling?
No, it's those teams. With the amount of conversations we're at now and the negotiations have been done. Everything's set in stone except he's got to stop the puck. Or he's got to stop the puck, he's got to score, and he's got to block shots. We got all positions out there right now. So if they make them, you can hit me with the Zamboni and then empty it on me.
Okay, it's on video, so yes.
This is a bad idea.
Make this happen, boys. Boys, make this happen. If you need to DM GM and I, like we'll pump your tires. We'll do whatever. I want to see Steph drenched in Zam snow.
This is a bad idea.
Great.
I've been pretty lucky. I've been flying under the radar so far, but I have a feeling that might change now.
Who do you think I'm tagging if this happens to me?
I know it's coming to me.
You, Braden, Kevin, and Tyler.
We can just take care of ours at one of the showcases.
Just get the Zamboni out on the ice.
Oh, get the whole team under there? Every guy under there? Everybody at once. Got to get dumped by the Zam.
I'll film it.
We went on a rant about tryouts because we get 1,000 questions a day. Parents are reaching out, kids are reaching out. No idea what's happening, no idea where to go, no idea what to look for, and we're here to help. Obviously, if you have any questions, like usual, put them in the comments, DM us. Keyboard warriors, if you're just trying to, create some problems and you're angry with us, go right ahead. We're not surprised. We're always here to help. If you have questions and you'd like to sit down with us, there's a consult form on our website. It's completely free. Come have a conversation with us. We'll steer you in the right direction and make sure you get the information you need. If you're looking at what our probability tool is, that'll help guide you to where you think you can play based on your stats. It'll pull historically from elite prospects. So it gives you a good idea of where guys in your situation have played and where you should be looking. But as usual, good luck with your camps, and hopefully everything works out. If not, we're here to help.